To the November 4th Town of Lewisboro budget work session. For those in the room, there's an exit towards the front of the building and an exit to the rear. Now, please join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so so tonight we're gonna have discussions with both our police department, our chief is here, and also our highway superintendent on his budget requests. And we'll start with, just to give everybody a little bit of what's happened since the tentative budget. There's some further adjustments made as a result of department heads coming to me to make some additional adjustments. And just to give you an idea, the tax cap that was with the tentative budget was at 14 and change, or we were actually about $1,009,000 above the tax cap. We're now $983,000 above the tax cap, or a rate of 13.97. So that's what you're seeing here.
I mean, about 26 grand of adjustments since the tentative.
That is correct. Yes, 26 grand in adjustments, correct. And one of the things that we're looking in my letter that I had attached to the tentative budget, you know, we did say that areas that where we were going to look to get closer to the tax cap would be revisiting the revenue lines, including the building department. That is the department where we generate the most revenue, and there may be a possibility to make some adjustments there to help our number. That has to be revisited with our building inspector. Revisiting expense lines for potential cuts, and then potentially resort to fund balance and budget surplus. And Annie and I, we've been talking about that. She's been exploring how to do that, see how we can fit that into the budget itself. It's done by some other towns, and we just got to figure out the proper way to do that.
What was that last part? I'm sorry.
By using budget surplus. So if you have a year where your revenues exceed your expenses, the difference, you can potentially put back into the, if you look at the tax rate sheet, you plug that in here. Now, for as long as I've been on the board, we've never done that. And just in talking to other supervisors, they do that. And it's something that we are trying to see if we can do. And in fact, I'll let Annie speak a little bit more about that. She did some research on the auditor's reports for the past few years.
Just maybe the differentiating the terms when you speak about the difference between surplus and reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll let Annie.
Yeah. So in my learning things here, familiarizing myself with everything, I went back and I looked at the audited financials for 2022 and 23. And that's where you can see in the general fund the surplus. So this is 2023. There's $917,000 of revenue on top of the expenses. So, and then the year before that was 1.6. So this is basically more revenues have come in and the expenses pretty much stay consistent with the budget, but there's items in the revenue section that are coming in higher. So this essentially goes into your fund balance at the end of the year. So, and other towns like where I came from, for example, they do take part of the surpluses and put it in the applied surplus, and it brings down your tax rate.
Got it.
So
It doesn't stay in the fund balance, they kind of.
They're using it
for the following year,
Right,
a portion of it.
a portion of it, not all of it. No,
Okay.
so an annual surplus that may be generated goes into the reserve, and then it could be reallocated into the pot can be reallocated.
yeah, essentially you're minimizing your increase in expenses.
No,
in
we
the
did that.
budget.
We did that slightly last year. We took a little bit, actually.
Well,
But that was out of the reserve.
That's a
That was a-
contingency line that we have.
That was
in the highway fund. I think that's what you're talking about.
I thought it was the estimates of what the revenue were gonna be was one way of.
Well, that we do on the revenue
Right.
sheet.
Mhm.
We do that here, right? So we adjust, the numbers, if we feel that, building is gonna do another $1 million this year, like they've done the past three or so years, we have room to bump this up 550,000.
So it stays not in reserves, it usually goes to the fund balance, but instead we're gonna hold it back on this line.
You're gonna use what you've like made in prior years
Yeah.
to lower your like to kind of even everything out,
Okay.
like 1 year over the next.
Okay, so does it, when we actually do the budget, do we then reallocate it to that line in the budget?
It's
In
it's
the
really
department?
just,
Make line item transfers later.
that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's line item transfers.
Got it.
It's like a net, it's the overview picture of where you ended up.
Planned transfers.
Mhm.
But here, we are permitted, and this is where we need to just figure out the nuts and bolts of how to do this and do it right. We're permitted to use surplus or apply surplus from prior budgets to help bring down the tax rate. It doesn't go into a budget line,
Right,
Mm-mm.
I understand.
right? Yeah,
So what's the difference accounting wise between applying a prior surplus to bring it down as opposed to what's in reserve?
well, if you're in reserve, I mean, if you.
Because our reserve is over 4 million, I think, right?
Well,
Well, that's like,
that's how you
that's our
define it.
savings.
We really
account.
don't have like a reserve. We have our general fund, which is an operating fund. And we have, like if you look at our total, today's balances, we're in the, $15 million range, right? But then out of that comes, we just paid 3 million in school taxes that were collected in October. So, so now if you start taking money out of your general fund to apply to help you with your budget, then you could get to a situation where you're gonna need to do it again, right? Because that money is no longer in your revenue line, let's say. And you have to keep doing it, and then you're depleting your,
Right, so
rainy day fund.
instead of moving it, it stays in the fund balance, right? It stays there.
Mhm.
Like it's staying in our savings account, and then we can attribute it to these lines, but we don't have to move it, and we only move it when we need to. So, correct? So it's still there, it's kind of, we know how much is there for each department where there's a surplus. And if needed, then we move it over, we'll make the line transfer, but it doesn't appear here.
well, you're not doing line transfers, and correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
You're not doing line transfers because it's not part of your budget. It's just a way to, because you had the surplus, that if you don't do anything, it becomes part of, the questions have come up in the past about what happens when you don't spend the money. Well, it goes back into your general fund, right? Here, you're saying, okay, let's take that money and apply it. Yes, it's in our general fund. But because we made more money than the prior year's budget, we can use that to lower the tax rate.
Okay, I got it.
It's just a way of
It's-
calculating it to bring that percentage down so that,
So for example, the $1 million that, were $983,912. If I took that number and I plug it in here, this number here goes to 2.49.
Okay, I got it.
I think we're overthinking this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
are.
understand.
We have savings.
Yeah.
And we're using the savings.
Yeah.
That we can
How
potentially
it
use,
gets
right,
accounted
yeah.
for, that's.
I got
Yeah.
it.
But it's not part of the budget because like, for example, last year we put real estate sales, we put the one house that we
Sure.
just closed on.
You have to recognize these like one.
But now we don't have that revenue line, right? Unless we know we're gonna sell property. I mean, that's another area we can look at, but the properties we have will probably not bring in what we had put in as revenue
For this year.
for this year,
I got it.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so with that said, was there anything else, Sandy, that you wanted to talk to?
no, I just wanted to give it kind of a broad overview. And also another thing that's important to look at, which I'm gonna dig into a little deeper, is fund balance. Where you really should be overall, like what a healthy fund balance is and what your reserves really should be. And if the question is if the accounts are higher than that right now, that's another case to use your surplus to help to keep the tax rate down.
So we'll figure all that out, and then that'll be baked into the next version of this,
So just to,
if we need to do it.
yeah, to close that off, have you done an assessment of the fund balance? Because that's.
No, that's next.
Yeah,
It's,
that-
there's a whole slew of resources on the Office of State Comptroller's website, with regards to fund balance, and I've attended a couple trainings, but it's been very high level. So I just want to do a little bit more research, and I know some towns have fund balance policies in their handbooks. It's just something I need to look into here.
what a healthy ratio and all that stuff is, what you have. here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, given the size of
Which is what you have. here.
Exactly.
Okay.
given the size of the town and
Okay, so that's where we are. Let's see if there's anything else. High level. Yeah, here that this is still the same from last time. This is the revenue tab. So there were no adjustments here from the tentative.
can you
Um,
just scroll a little slower, please?
Yeah, I actually am doing
Do
line
you
by
wanna
line.
share
here.
it on Zoom?
Oh, shoot, I forgot. Sorry, folks. I forgot to share this on Zoom, but we didn't really start with something, so.
But still, people would like the information for the prologue.
So you should be seeing in the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so again, just to recap, we're at 13.97%. That's the current tax increase rate. We're 983,000 above the tax cap. General revenues didn't change at all since the tentative budget. There's some numbers here I'm verifying, like the cable TV franchise fees. I'm estimating just based on the trend, it'll go down by a few $1,000s. The rent for the cell towers, I have to verify that as well. But I don't think that's gonna deviate much. It's the arrow. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so tonight, like I was saying earlier, we have highway and PD. So we'll start with the chief. Would like to have an update? Sure. You can sit down at the end there.
Stand
Or
right here?
if you want to stand, yeah, I guess that works, yeah. Let me just go down to your section. Right.
Just give it numbers if anybody's following along.
Eight
give me a number.
31:20.
Yeah, it's up on my screen right there, 831:20, police. So the chief and I, he presented his requested budget. We had some discussion. So one of the things that is going to be a major initiative is the new police department, the new headquarters that we desperately need, especially with eventually, the school district facilities not being available to us down the road. We need to start thinking about new facilities for, especially PD. We had some discussions with highway as well, in terms of what we're gonna do there, and then of course the other town offices, so. But I'd like to start with PD, and the chief and I have had some conversations, where we're discussing some options on what we can potentially do.
Okay, just before we even go down that road,
Yeah.
just generally speaking, salaries went up last year. It was what, 4%? What did we do last year for everybody?
For the salaries for
Or,
PBA, you're talking about, or
no,
general.
just in general.
Employee.
non-union, 4%.
Okay, so we did the same this year.
Yes, but I probably, it's about a 10% difference, but I'll probably, in order to match up with the union, the UPSCU union, which is 3.25, I'll probably bring it down to 3.25, just to. Even
Parity.
across the board, yeah,
Can
parity,
we do that?
Three-
We do that in our,
3.25 or 3.75?
3.25.
so 3.25.
Which brings us in line with the UPSCU is actually, I'm sorry, 3%. Teamsters is 3.25. Teamsters highway and maintenance 3.25, PVA is 3.25. PSCU is 3% of 2025.
So 3%. It's a
3%.
question mark at for the non-union. Right now you have it in here as
Right now it's
4%,
four,
but you
right.
might reduce it. Okay, got it. Sorry, Dave.
No problem.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
Yeah, so we had the discussions about the facilities, so that's very early stages, but we need to start bringing in folks that can give us some ideas and thoughts on, you know, what will this look like? I actually have a call into Keller Sessions because they actually did some work. We talked about the Salt Dome area where the state police are located and potentially augmenting that facility and having a building there. That'll be able to garage the cars and Dave's staff.
Are we talking about taking it back from the state police? That
Well, no,
building,
I
or
didn't want to
separate-
coexist with them. You know, let them,
Same building or additional building?
they could stay in the same building potentially. And this is, again, all very early stages. I mean, it could deviate from that, but the idea was that they could potentially use the same building. Or we go into that building for starters, but I think I'd like to see a new building in there. Which means we're gonna have to borrow for that, right?
Yes.
We're gonna have to
The
bond
building
for it.
is not in good shape, right? I mean, to.
Yeah.
I think it was built in the late 1800s. I went to the building
It's
department.
protected?
Huh?
There's no protection on that building? Can't just rip it down and start again? Anybody?
I don't know, that's about,
That's another thing.
well,
I
we
gotta
talked
look
about
at.
that, that's another variable that we have to look at, that's why I said we would potentially build adjacent to it, in order to not have to knock it down. Right, but, you know, so those are all things that need to be taken into consideration. Right,
So just on so talking about that property, so that's owned by the town, everything.
Correct.
The land that the.
commuter lot,
Thing says,
state police property, Salt Dome, it's all town. Correct. We actually have plans for a highway garage going in the Salt Dome space from years ago. So we're looking at, you know, taking a look at that and see if that still fits, considering the wetlands and DEC, et cetera. So I actually have a call into, I already spoke to Keller Sessions because they were involved some years back when I was looked at. And I'd like to get them back in to see, okay, how much of that property is buildable if we want to include PD.
it sounds like you should talk to highway and police and everybody should be part of that discussion, I think, right?
We just started these discussions, the department heads and I, yes. If anybody else wants to be part of these discussions, you know, certainly. We have been, you know, we just had some very early, looking at the drawings that we've had from prior, you know, years ago. Yeah.
So it's not likely to be sort of part of this.
It wouldn't be part of the budget because we would have to then bond for it. We have to figure out how much we need, bond for it. Just keeping in mind that service expense would be part of the 2026 budget.
Right.
And you know, and that would give the chief the capability to expand as needed, his department. And
If just a few pointers,
Yeah.
the space that I'm in now, I spend $22,000 a year over at LES. And we do not have a generator. We do not have a shower, you know, God forbid we get bodily fluids on us or anything like that. We're not allowed to have juveniles in there either. So there's a few, we have 3 big discrepancies right now at the police station.
Well, actually, just to close with that, so what's the current status with LES? I know that, you know, where does that stand? As far as.
they're gonna, so at the end of the year.
In reading, there was some committee that they were discussing.
Right, and that committee's charge has been delayed in terms of coming up with, their timeline for coming up with a decision has been based on the last meeting they had. And the plan is for me to meet with the superintendent again before the end of the year to get an update. Nothing's gonna happen in 25. And even 26, I doubt it, but.
Well, okay, so you're gonna have meetings with the superintendent, it's fine, so what's the agenda for that discussion?
To see what their plans are. When I met with them about 2 months ago, they said that by the end of the year, they would have a better idea. But based on the last meeting that they had with this new committee, they really haven't made any progress. Right.
We're talking about whether they're gonna decide to sell or revamp or do something else with the entire property.
Correct, they're not gonna sell. That they made pretty clear to us, they're not gonna sell.
All right, so this isn't
Yeah.
specific to the PD, it's just specific to whatever type of relationship we have with the school district and
Well,
that
it's
building.
specific to us having to do something, right? We can't wait till the last minute.
No, I know that, but I mean, the conversations are specific to our relationship to that building in the school district.
Correct.
Moving forward, where we'll,
Right.
you know, get a better idea, all right.
We still don't have a,
It's not just the police department, it's everything
Everything.
that's there.
I actually called for that meeting because we've been on a month-to-month with them since
Yeah.
the agreement expired in June of last year. And so they guarantee that they will renew the agreement till June of next year. And then we'll see whether we're gonna be month-to-month again, or they're gonna give us another year.
Got it.
Chief,
Sure.
how's your budget?
Would you want me to go into the
Yeah.
line items?
So,
Okay, or we're done with the
Yeah. I think we
discussion?
should just-
Okay,
yeah,
Move
let's go,
on.
yeah. Start
Twenty
with,
twenty-five is exploring options, that's what I got, okay.
right, and one of the options explored was the third shift, right?
and that's the problem with my current location is that I'm maxed out with capacity. So my locker room, I have no room for any new hires. So if I was to fill that or try to put an overnight in, it really wouldn't be able to work out.
Right.
There's no room because every person has dedicated space.
Yeah, the locker room is probably half the size of this room here. And I have currently 20 people, including myself.
And you also have, each officer gets their own body cam,
Yes,
correct?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have the separate, the modules that upload the,
yeah, when they come in, they put them on the wall and all that. And
Yeah.
so you need every new hire, you're gonna have to get a new body cam and new data plan. So everything's cloud
new firearm
So-
storage
and
as well.
there's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot involved with the new police station, obviously, and
Mhm.
you know. Let alone just record management as well on top of it.
Right.
So, and you know, the biggest thing is not being able to. Do anything with juveniles, you know, having them
Right.
come in or anything like that, you know, it's a big problem. Actually, we experienced it tonight.
Mhm.
With you know, we just had an order of protection, we had to serve a juvenile. You know, God forbid, they violate that and it's an automatic, you know,
Right.
juvenile arrest, we can't even process them.
Right.
Because you can't be in that police station. So,
And we had just in terms of the new police station, I actually got invited to Village of Pelham. They actually built a new town facility. It includes PD. Beautiful job, really nice. And I mentioned to them that you may be interested in taking a look. But they have an architect that's been engaged with them that.
I just recently reached
you
out to him as
actually reached out
well.
to him, Yeah.
So you want me to just start with,
Yeah.
Salary.
We're with the, yeah. with the
no, so we'll stop on the top here.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's my salary, which is
Yeah.
contractual.
Right, and that's contractual, terminates in June, and we'll be discussing that
Yes.
separately, yeah.
We have youth officer. We currently do not have a youth officer at the Lewisboro School District. Officers part-time. That went up, that's contractual.
And that's you have a pool of like 16 officers, right?
So there is 16 part-time officers. So that's their salary, or I'm sorry, the shift work and everything. How I come up with that is basically the shifts that the
Mhm.
part-timers work, which is all contractual with the PBA contract.
But it looks like it went down.
It went down because last year we lost a full-timer, Officer Pulse, and we replaced her with Officer Petrucci, who was a transfer from NYPD.
Okay, so
So
that
the-
salary is less.
That salary is less, and then that increased the full-time, the sergeant officer full-time line.
Mhm.
So sergeant officer full-time line, I have the sergeant and 2 patrol officers. So that went up, that's contractual. Officer training. It's what I've used in the past, and all I did was the increase with the raises from the union contract. Court officer, same thing. Longevity went up due to the contract
Mhm.
and the years of service. Overtime, I did the same thing with overtime. I just did the increase of the new contract, same percentage. It was a 3.5. I said, no, 3.25, you said.
Right.
And then the computer system and software software, I'm sorry. I increased that $2,000. Due to the fact that their services increased. Police vests. This is an area where I have room to play with because these are all on grants. I have the DOJ grant and then I also have the Perma body armor grant. So each of them are 50%.
Right.
So
Okay.
that one's up in the air. Obviously we have to pay for them first and then we get reimbursed.
But better to keep the full amount there just in case we don't get the grant.
And who knows if Perma doesn't do the grant next year or
Right.
even the DOJ. So,
Right.
Radar and equipment, that was just an old line item that I've never had. That I've never utilized
Yeah,
as
that's
chief.
actually not on here. Radar.
Okay, that's on mine.
Yeah.
Defibrillators, these are just your equipment, the batteries and the actual pads that you put on. So when we do go to these EMS calls, and we're 90% of the time, we're usually first on scene because we're out on the road. And we have a lot of volunteers. So they usually have to go to their headquarters and then respond from their home. So a lot of times we're usually there and we use our defibrillator pads. And it's kind of the $1,000 price tag is what I came up with. Office expenses, I kept the same. Gasoline, I kept the same. Uniform dry cleaning, I did increase that $1,000. That's due to the prices and inflation going up as well, and another officer
Right.
that we received that I was unable to increase because it was during last year. Vehicle maintenance, I put in 20,000.
And I actually have a note in there.
Yes.
Can this be lowered with Joel's new hire? Because I know Kevin used to do a lot of the maintenance, right?
Yeah, the issue he's having is these cars have to go back to the dealer more
Okay.
and more often. Because it's all electronics,
Right.
it's just like going right back to the dealer. all the
So we
time.
should keep that line.
Yeah, he's gonna
Yeah.
hit that.
Okay, okay.
With all the specialized equipment and software that you have in the cars, it probably is
a lot of
safer to
electrical
go
problems.
back to the dealership for
It's either
that.
going back to the people that outfit them
Mm,
or the dealership,
Right, right.
because that's what they specialize in.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, I mean, we could cut if the town or highway gets a tire machine and a
Right.
balancing machine. I think that would be a significant price cut because we go through, I'd say every car usually gets a set of tires every year.
Mhm.
Wow.
So because you have your, winter tires and summer tires, a lot of them are all, summer rated also, they're high performance tires
Mhm.
that are pursuit rated. So they kind of go through pretty quick in
Right.
the summer.
And the gasoline line, just because, I don't know how that's what the adopted budget, what you ended up spending for. Based upon last year's amount of the.
That's usually how I based it. I'll get a invoice of like the last 3 months I've used at the high school and kind of just add that up and get an average of what I've done this year.
I mean, we could look that up in KBS, but
Okay.
don't have that number here. handy.
So are we obligated to use the gasoline? Oh, it's all regular gasoline for all the vehicles or?
It's a 91 test. I know that.
Yeah.
I just asked the guy the other day, the Lewisboro School District. And they do put additives in it as well, which supposedly help. But that's where I saw him. He's putting in gasoline additives to prolong
Is
engines and
the
servicing.
cost of the gasoline through the school district less expensive than?
That I do not know because if we were to, sometimes it's broken, we'll have to go to Mobile or Shell and use a credit card, but then you're paying tax.
Right.
So I'm assuming that obviously the school district and municipalities and fire trucks and stuff, they get the tax break on that.
So I have an August 16th report, and so year to date, August 16th, the spend was just under 15,000.
Okay.
And that was from when? I'm sorry.
That's from January until August 16th.
Okay.
That's for the entire town.
That's pretty good, actually.
Pretty close.
Yeah,
Is that, Tony, is that for just the police department or for the entire?
that's in his budget.
Okay,
Firearms, tasers, body worn cameras. This is a contract that we have with Axon, which is the body cameras.
Mhm.
So it's your cloud storage, your evidence.com, the taser rentals, and the body cams per person. And there's also $3,000 in there for firearms and ammo for the year.
Yeah, everything else going down to like, well, LES rents. So so pretty much stay the same.
Yep, modem, same thing. And that's also including the speed trailers. There's $3,000 on the vehicle computer modems. So it's the two electronic signs that collect data. One's the tow behind and the other is the 12-inch sign. Dues are kept the same. The policy training manual, that's another grant I get from PERMA. I don't believe it's 100%, but it is, I'd say it's around 30-40% you get back for that. But that is for my policies that we went through last year, or the year before.
Right.
LexiPol. The equipment and maintenance, I kept the same. This is, when things break, radar equipment, etc. And just odds and ends that you need around the signage, cones, flares, fire extinguishers, oxygen refills. Obviously the vehicle lease, we have one more year to pay that, the 12,000. That is for the Dodge Charger. LES rent utilities. It's for the 2 double wide trailers we're in.
Mhm.
And the phone call recorder is $1,000. And that's for the recording phone at our police headquarters.
Right. Now we lowered that to 475.
Yes.
So what's the history of the building, the double wide, those are,
So those were,
when did those originally get there and how did they get there?
so when I went to LES for elementary school and those were temporary trailers in the 80s. My sergeant actually remembers when he was younger, he's a year older than me, when they delivered them. So, and those are, like I said, they're temporary trailers in the 80s.
Like a class.
And they're still there. Yeah, so it was, half of it was art and the other half was music. Now it's my office and headquarters.
I guess, we don't own that, that's LES, all of it.
KLM State. And it's probably not very healthy. Either for you.
No, there's, you're more than welcome to come by and check it out.
Yeah.
Floor's coming up. Like I said, there's a lot of issues over there.
You need the space.
Well, Chief, I've been getting feedback from the community asking for the police department to cover past midnight. Et cetera, to do something here, any more full timers or part timers in your budget in these lines.
So I did request for 2 full timers for next year to be hired in end of June, early July to go through the police academy. That's step 1. That's 70. What's it off the top of my head?
It's right here.
72,
909. Yeah.
72,909.
But do you have the
What?
space for them?
Okay.
That I don't. And I know it's a big topic. People call, I see people at events and functions and everybody wants their night patrol. They want the night patrol. Obviously, we've seen an uptick in, commercial burglaries. Not just that, just mental health in general. So what happens when there's a mental health call or an EMS call and EMS are lovely volunteers, you get a call at 2:00 in the morning and they're staging away, waiting for a police officer to show up. So they could transport this subject to the hospital and get help that they need. And sometimes they're waiting for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, almost to an hour for state police to show up. So it is a problem. And the chiefs and the captain from Melvac, Vista Fire, South Salem, they've raised these concerns. I'm sorry, not South Salem. South Salem doesn't go on EMS calls, but it is a problem. Because it's just escalating, more and more.
And the other question, have you reached out to the state police about the situation? Did they respond at all?
I have had meetings with them.
We're looking to have another meeting.
Yeah, we're looking to have another meeting to discuss further.
Yeah.
So basically not as responsive as you.
I think if you look state to state, I think there's a big shortage in police officers right now. I mean, it's hard to find a full-time officer. It's hard to find a part-time officer. Times have changed. The force, towns up here, Somers, Pound Ridge, Lewisboro, and North Salem, we're all trying to pull from the same people for part-time staff. And ever since the police reform, the new technology, guys that are retired or, have 20+ years on, they're retired, they just don't want anything to do with policing anymore.
Well,
So
But also some of the guys that are retired that are part-time police officers, theirs are.
they're capped.
They are capped. They can only make so much. So we have a list of all these part-timers, but they've maxed out on their hours. And so we have less of a pool to choose from because they can't take any more time.
Can you explain the capping?
Yeah, I could explain it.
Because
So
people at home might not understand.
if you're retired from New York State municipality or whatever, any government job in New York State, and you're retired, you can't work and earn more than $35,000 of a state job. You could work at, any other civilian job and make whatever you want, but you can't make more than $35,000 a year. They don't approve waivers. I went down that avenue to try to get a waiver. They do not approve them.
So that $35,000 is the cap.
That
It's
is the
the
cap.
ceiling at which they can't earn any.
And
more.
right now I'm running into the problem, like I have 6 out of 15 of my part-time guys are already capped out. So I'm already having a problem filling the shifts. A lot of it's the full-time guys on overtime.
Wow.
That's why my overtime budget is
Goes
kind of
up.
shot already.
Right, right.
And it didn't help. One of my part-time guys got hurt on the job, so he was out on 207C for 2 months or 3 months. He broke his shoulder or separated his shoulder.
That's like being on the injured list.
Yeah, so he was injured. So there's a lot of shifts that he could have taken during that. And so other part-timers filled those shifts and now they're capped out. So it's almost a nightmare balancing part-time, full-time scheduling because of the cap. And I know we're very active. The 4 towns are very active in trying to push legislation to raise that cap to $50,000. And it just keeps getting shut down every year.
Has it been 35 for a long time?
And they actually just raised it $5,000, I want to say 2 years ago. Was it this year?
This year I was.
Oh, okay. So
So we
it's,
should reach out to our local legislators.
and they've had it for the last 15 years, Mary.
Okay.
They really have. And a lot of the problem is, I found out is they don't like it because if the towns and villages all start hiring part-time, no one's putting back into the pension system. So that's kind of the whole theory behind it. That's why they don't want to approve them. But
Somers, the state police in recent years, has the amount of officers there and or their territory changed at all?
not that I know of. I know their recruitment levels are significantly lower over the past 2-3 years. So they're having a problem recruiting as well.
County police, excuse my ignorance, is there limited, the jurisdiction and what they can cover is limited as far as just.
I mean, the county police, if they're passing by, and they're not going to just patrol Lewisboro. Like Mount
Okay.
Kisco, they have a contract.
Mostly down county and
They're patrolling parkways, highways, and currently the only village they have is Mount Kisco.
Well, they cut a deal, hire all those people into the county,
Yes.
right? And they disbanded, and they disbanded, they rolled it into the county police. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Dave, if we were to expand coverage into past midnight, right? How many cars are we required to have on the road? We can't just have one.
You need two vehicles on the road, or two officers. They could be in one vehicle, or you could have two
Two
vehicles, one in each.
Okay.
But that is a contract, that is contract in the PBA rule.
And
And the same with the state police do the same thing.
when we're looking to fill shifts with the part-timers, we can't mandate that they fill a shift, right?
I cannot,
So,
their A job will supersede and I can't ask. That's also in the contract.
okay.
So God forbid you get a Sandy or a terrible hurricane or, knock on wood, this doesn't happen. But if I do have to select and direct, either A, they're gonna be capped out. I can't order them in. And the only guys that you're gonna get is myself, the sergeant, the two patrolmen who are full-time.
So would it make sense to have a civilian emergency manager on the budget? I mean, not necessarily with the police department, but if, God forbid, something happened, would an emergency response manager help that situation?
I mean, I don't think a civilian emergency manager, I mean, usually the chief of police kind of works with the emergency management office side by side or something like that.
Right,
So
right,
like
but-
currently it's Adam Oaks still, I believe.
He's thinking about retiring.
Okay.
All right, so basically the only way the town gains coverage after midnight by local police is if we hire full-timers.
I mean, I think I could,
I mean, I know the space at the station is limited, but I'm just saying, just talking about coverage wise. If we wanted to expand coverage past midnight to say like 3 o'clock in the morning as opposed to 24-hour coverage.
now you're running into another issue is so we get off at 11 PM and then you want to go till 3 o'clock in the morning. It's a 4-hour shift. So you're gonna have 2 4-hour shifts. I think that'd be hard to try to find somebody to come in for 4 hours.
So then what's the solution to that? Or options?
I do have. I mean, this all came upon me today, obviously. I think what we need to do is really sit down and come up with like a 5-year plan and really iron it out because the PBA contract, I believe, is up next year, right?
Mhm.
January 1st, 2026. And I think what we could do right now, I think like an SLE car is possibly more important. And
Can you explain what that is?
so SLE would be a traffic car. Because right now, I think our biggest complaints are the speeding issues, the road rage. It's nonstop. I know you get emails, I get emails and phone calls every day.
You can see it just walking down the street.
Yeah. And, I think having something like that and, having revenue come in from, tickets generated and stuff like that might pay for, say, the following year, you get the 2026, you get a full-time officer off that. But I think this is all something that we need to sit down with and negotiate with the PBA contract and depending on, maybe they'll give and take and maybe they'll accept zeros and there's some leeway, who knows?
But the PBA would be against that, right? If you were to-
I've already spoke to the PBA president tonight and I do have a comprehensive plan. I don't think I should go over it on the air right now. I think it'd be like an executive session to discuss it because like I said, I just came up with this about 2 hours ago.
Okay.
And I did have talks with the PBA president. So there are options and it could almost certainly come close, if not pay for itself.
Right.
On the dedicated car, I'm trying to remember historically where we left off, we approved that for a period of time, almost like a trial period, right?
Yes.
And then,
So we.
right, and then that was for like a quarter or a half a year, I can't remember what we did.
It was 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
I'll be honest with you. I screwed up on that one and I should have just devoted one officer to do it. Instead, I've shared the wealth with other officers that were interested in it, but I should have just devoted to the one because what happened is that I had 4 officers that did it. And then when they worked their regular patrol shifts, they were already, they didn't go above and beyond when they worked their regular patrol shifts. They did their minimum. They're like, oh, I already wrote tickets during the SLE program. So they didn't feel as if they had to do any extra. So that was my fault. I should have devoted to one person as opposed to 4. But it did bring in, significant, there's a lot of violations. A lot of the times the officers, when they're out on the road and during patrol, they're answering and responding to calls. And then they're writing reports. Or they're, MHL, the mental health, increased 500-600%. And it's very time consuming.
Right, takes away from.
Absolutely. And we do have the mobile help response team that comes up and helps us out. But you're waiting, they're coming from Kisco. So now you're waiting for a civilian to drive the it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But as far as law enforcement goes with the additional full-timers that we put on this year, you guys have been able to get the stats up.
Stats are increased, average before the 2 patrol officers, one went through the academy. And then the other transfer from NYPD, we're looking at 60-something arrests this year so far, when in the past we didn't have those full-time patrol officers. We're averaging around 6 to 10 arrests a year. So definitely get what you pay for. And it's no disrespect. I have great guys. My part-time guys are fabulous. The experience, the wealth of knowledge. Some of them major crimes, detectives, investigators, high ranks, lieutenants, captains. But can only do the job so long. I'm 42 years old. I feel it. That's why it's a 20-year retirement.
Just
Things that you see and do, and
figure out a solution to the issues that we've been seeing, an increase in the rise in crime in Vista, specifically on that thoroughfare there coming up from.
So I have three license plate readers. They're dual direction, and they're currently being put together right now by Westchester County PD. Lieutenant Brian Hess has helped me out with his guys, and they're actually, I bought everything on that $275,000 grant I got. I spent approximately $45,000 on license plate readers for 3 different locations in town. And I'm going to put 2 over in Vista. And also another one over at Golden Bridge. So
Maybe you'll tell us what line projected timing.
yeah. So I should be finding, I got a call into him today. I was hoping to get an update, but he wasn't working today. So
We appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you.
But again, even part-time, Andrea, you raised a good point with the increase in the commercial burglaries and stuff like that. Like I said, I have a lot of good part-time guys where we could allocate funds for detective work. And we could utilize our own and the part-time guys. So if there is a case, you have 2 detectives that could start running with these and, spending time on them.
But you still have to balance the cap.
And would the state allow that? Because they usually take over, right? So they allow you to-
Something that we're fully capable of handling.
Yeah.
But right now, right now I have 2 patrol officers on. So if you have some sort of case that you need to investigate, you're going to tie up that patrol officer. Now you got one guy's responding to the entire town.
Right.
Now, if you have a domestic that's a 2-call car, you got a 2-call job. So now you get a 2-person job. I'm sorry. So now you're down to 1. They're going to have to pull from state police over in Somers to come over. So you really need that extra funds for like a detective.
Right.
Is there any opportunity to share that, or collaborate with Pound Ridge and North Salem specifically in the detective component? Because if a state police person, can investigate something anywhere in a particular area, we had a dedicated person that sharing.
I think
Detective wise.
I would imagine the budget and jurisdiction would be an issue.
your geographical area, I can't go into Pound Ridge and work as a police officer unless I'm sworn in Pound Ridge as a police officer.
Right.
But a detective would know.
He's still a police officer, and he's not, if he's say a Pound Ridge detective working in Lewisboro, he's out of his geographical area.
It's not,
he
they've
could
got
follow
professional courtesy as far as
Yeah.
police officers.
And you're still
go.
probably, if we're using them, we're probably gonna have to pay them.
Yeah.
Right.
So the part-time guys, if we use our own part-time guys, you're only paying them if you're using them.
You know, and my personal feeling is homegrown police department has more of a vested interest in our community and our businesses as opposed to the state police. They come and go. County, when, you know, our officers in town care about our town. And I think, you know.
Just continuity. It's small town policing, it's community policing at its best.
Right.
And I think it definitely makes a difference. And I know the residents say it every day, so.
Sure, yep.
So much of the future hinges on the new facility though, too, and for constraint everything. So I would just say, like, put out the word to everybody in town, like, brainstorm, where's a space, be creative, you know, because that seems to be the holdup.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get it done. I mean, sorry. Working on it.
There's a few locations.
2025 is the brainstorming year, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so
Well, no,
2025,
right now.
yeah, so early
Right
2025. We should have some people that can help us with designing and knowing where, you know, what's buildable.
Mhm.
And then come up with some plans, and obviously the chief wants to be central as much as possible, so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is why Spring Street is a great location. Even here, but here you're.
Still a little more residential.
Yeah.
If you were to, you know, come out of here and, you know, we're speeding to a call or, you know,
Yeah, there
you got a lot of people
35.
walking here with the lake and everything.
Right.
So right there, you're right off Route 35, easy on, easy out, and people could find us. Everyone always knows
Right.
where that location is over the last,
Mhm.
50 years, 60 years.
Basically, anywhere on Route 35, you know, there was a house for sale or something somewhere on 35 that would, you know,
Right.
would give you access.
What about the South Salem Fire Department property? It's a large property.
But again, you're gonna
They
be
own
renting. Well, yeah, they own it. So we'd be paying rent
Yeah.
if they
There
were to
was
build
this
something
wonderful
for us.
idea to do an emergency service central location there and.
Now you
it
get LVAC.
Didn't go
Well, the
well.
other idea was, talk about like Cyrus Russell potentially, and.
Cyrus Russell,
That was
there's another
something that we
location,
talked about before.
which
Yeah.
is still central
Yeah,
and close to the school.
right.
But
That's a great location.
And LVAC could, you know, they can co-locate with you
Sure.
if needed.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's another option.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else here that you wanna quickly highlight?
No, I think that's really it. I covered a lot of it.
Right.
Again, Chief Alfano, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Right.
Okay. John, you're up next. So the highway fund, as everyone knows, it's separate from the general. So we have here on the spreadsheet, we have highway revenue, which driveway permits, $100 a year.
You know, the first couple months I didn't see any, and then like this
Yeah.
last month I got 4 or 5, but
Okay.
I don't think it's enough
So
for
that's
talking
not gonna,
about.
yeah. And then we have the chips aid. We have that estimated to be about.
As long as it
300,000.
comes next year,
Right,
like the play games up in Albany.
right. So that's the revenue side. So now if we go to the highway fund. Yeah, we can go through. You know, we talked about wages, so you have like the lead maintenance.
I had something typed up I wanted to say.
Yeah,
Can I
you
start
want
with
to go
that?
for it, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board. I wrote this before you worked here, so and Danny. In the close to 12,000 residents, both here and in the audience at home, we're listening. I want to take a minute to bring up that my family and I are part of the Lewisboro community, along with all of you. With my children being the 5th consecutive generation in my family to live in our town. Because of that, my roots and my commitment to this community run very deep. I also wanted to point out that unlike the town board, I'm only one nominated and elected by both major political parties as highway superintendent almost a year ago. I continue to be extremely grateful for both the bipartisan support and the career opportunity, so thank you both parties for their continued support. Despite any political affiliation, my dedication and goal is to keep our 96 miles of town roads, culverts, trees, catch basins, stormwater management, etc., maintained and operating properly, and thereby keeping everyone of you safe in our community. As your highway superintendent, approaching the completion of my first year of service to the community that my family and I call home, I do have an agenda to significantly improve our long neglected town infrastructure with the ultimate goal of getting on a schedule where we will not only have to maintain, we will only have to maintain projects rather than overhaul them. But that will take time and a larger portion of the town budget to accomplish, as we cannot get the money from anywhere else to do so. I feel that the highway department has been deprived of appropriate financial support for years, dating back to the 2008 financial crisis. During that time, the staff and the budget for the department seemed to diminish and never fully recover. While I was actually only 18 years old back then and far from the position I'm fortunate to be in now. There's someone on the town board who was president at this time and has been voicing the concerns about what I am here to discuss with you tonight. Every time I converse with the various town board members, I am happy to hear you often echo the support, the vision, and the goals I have for this town and the roads by providing necessary financial support needed to get us on a proper paving and maintenance plan. Before I get into budgetary numbers, I'm respectfully requesting to ensure that I can do my job efficiently and ensure a long neglected town infrastructure is on the road to recovery, pun intended. One last point I'd like to make is that unlike other important pillars of our community, whether it's the Lewisboro Library, the building department, or even Parks and Rec, it is the highway department who is on call to work for all of you 365 days per year, along with Lewisboro Police, of course, to perform essential services for Lewisboro, which benefit, protect, and ensure the safety of 100% of our residents, including my family, yours, my friends, and my neighbors. I ask that the five of you keep all this in mind, and I'm confident that you will, as you navigate through the difficult process of drafting and adopting a fiscal responsible 2025 town budget. Even if it does have to exceed the tax cap to do so, our residents deserve nothing less. Now, let me briefly highlight the five main parts of my highway department budget requests to the town board, which I've already reduced after my initial submission and preliminary meetings with the town supervisor to ensure the budgetary requests balance our needs to improve the neglected town infrastructure and their town's fiscal challenges and realities. Firstly is, of course, the hot topic of paving. The current $180,000 in the paving line gets me laughed at, sometimes cursed at, when I tell the residents that is what I'm provided to pave the entire town on an annual basis. Yes, I've asked for a very significant increase for paving, but that is the #1 request and complaint I get from residents. There is a direct correlation with paving and several other lines of my budget. To do the best job, we thoroughly check over roads the moment we decide they're going to be on the annual paving plan. We should have the allocate funding to be able to pave several miles a year, not just currently 1 mile a year. What's involved in paving a road, you might ask? We start with tree work, cutting back and dropping any dead and dangerous trees. We check all catch basins, stormwater piping between the basins and the outfalls. Any older metal pipes get replaced with newer, longer lifetime plastic. Any basins in poor condition get replaced. All basin tops get raised and sometimes replaced to the appropriate height for the new paved surface. We are sure to address any water and ice concerns, adding new basins, current drains, swales, regrading shoulders, and other areas where necessary. This is all to protect the town's investment in the new pavement. Doing this removes any reason to cut open or alter the roads once paved, saving the town money with efficiency of doing all and any maintenance or repairs prior to paving. If I get the requested funding for my pavement budget line, this will reflect the small increases I've requested in my gravel and my catch basin and pipelines. Since the more we pave, the more we have to prep. Second, staffing. To get the work done, I don't just need materials. I need people to execute the tasks at hand. This department once had 15 employees and I currently have 11. I would like to create some entry-level positions to the department to create a ladder to climb, as the department is very top-heavy. I'm requesting 3 positions as I would get a lot done with 1 additional MEO, 2 laborers added to the job roster. This in the end helps bring my total number of staff back towards where it once was, but also saves money with the new entry-level positions. Third, machinery and equipment. I'm constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul. I have a $120,000 excavator coming, I hope by the end of the year, if not early next year, via a grant from Peter Harkin's office. I need a trailer to move that machine. I need a smaller trailer for the existing excavator, pipe, basins, etc. We need to upgrade our 20-year-old chainsaws, pole saws, snow blowers, etc. We need a road saw to effectively and precisely cut the pavement when doing road work. In order to make this all happen, I had to transfer funds from one budget line to another. So I'm asking for my current non-existent equipment line to be bumped up for next year to avoid having to shift funds and pull from other line items. I have also accounted for a slight increase in equipment repair as the cost of parts, fluids, tires, etc. have all gone up. Since brand new trucks are harder and harder to get, I foresee us keeping and fixing older trucks more than replacing vehicles altogether. Luckily, we have an awesome mechanic and a crew who takes good care of the trucks and equipment. So this is a goal I think will be foreseeable to obtain. Fourth, road repair. I asked for more funding for road repair as we have more and more potholes, pipes to replace, curbs to add, basins to change, etc. Not only on roads we are repaving, but keep in mind, when we do that type of work on roads prior to paving, we still have to do all the pavement repairs to the roads first before the subcontractors come pave the road. This eats up that line. Fifth and lastly, I've asked for a raise for myself. I feel I deserve to be paid competitively with the surrounding towns. I ask not to make more than any of them, but simply be compensated fairly for the job I do. I appreciate greatly the multiple times some residents have vocalized they felt the same way. A pat on the back is nice and brings a smile to my face, but I cannot bring that to the grocery store to feed my family. Keep in mind that comes from the A fund, not the D fund highway budget. Thank you for your time and consideration for my proposal.
Thanks, John.
I was timing it. I was trying to get it a little lower, but I had a lot to say.
Well, we appreciate it.
And everything that you said was really important.
Perfect.
We
See
saw,
you. Let me know how it goes.
no, I just, to give you that little pat in the back that you were talking about, to see what you've accomplished in the last year, the roads that you've paved. I know it started with moving rocks and getting things geared up to make sure it's well done. And I know how thoroughly you take care of every single detail, and it shows. And it also shows that the department's behind you.
Yeah, I have a great group of guys. I wouldn't be able to get it done without them.
So kudos.
Thank you.
So I know paving is a very popular topic on everyone's minds, including here. And your initial request was for 600,000, whereas last year we had 180,000. But then we also borrowed 320, and then we had CHIPS money. So we spent about 800.
And we got it all done.
Yeah.
And beautifully.
So the request now is to increase that, increase that to 600,000. And then you and I spoke about going over and see, okay, what can we get done with half of that? Obviously, I wanted to rein in the tax increase from
Mhm.
where we started at 27%, we're now at 14, roughly,
Yep.
so, below that. So the question is, do we want to allocate more money for paving than the 360,000?
Well, so that's, so then you. So-
Now, we-
Why did you take the
we-
240 on?
to make it not as a dramatic increase for this year, and then next year you have the 180 becomes 360. And then maybe you can add a little more to that, or do you do it all at one shot and
Well, I mean,
now the
effectively what you're, the number that you sliced it to is 1/2 of last year, right?
no, it's 360.
No,
So
but
the-
last year, you just mentioned before that we spent a total of 800 last year.
Including chips,
Including
which
chips.
you could use on
And
various.
the borrowed money, so
And the
this
borrowed
year,
money.
it would be 660. 300,000 plus the 360,000 that's budgeted here right now. You're looking at spending 660,000 next year,
So it's being cut 20%.
right?
So what's your number for the average dollars per mile?
If we could get on a grid, so bear with me, it's not exact science, because if you do a curb, that's a lot more material. The road's
Yeah.
wider, it's a lot more material. Around 170, 180 would get you a mile on the average road.
And
We had 85 miles of pavement, I paved probably a mile, so I don't know, it's easy numbers, let's say like 84. Times, if we're getting 12 years out of a road, I think we should be doing 6, 7 miles a year.
so
And that 180 gets you one.
that's almost,
and
that's
chips.
almost, the budget that should be in place is almost $1 million.
I mean, Somers has 130 miles of
That's-
road, they're
yeah.
doing over $1 million.
And-
Yorktown is 200, they're doing 2 million.
Right, and we've been running at
We
a
should be doing about $1
deficit,
million for every 100 miles.
we've been running at a deficit forever. I estimate we're about 30 or 40 miles in deficit in terms of like, we should have done those roads, we didn't do it. So that's like a hidden deficit that everybody's paying. There's no way to
And
make
that's
that
more
up.
prep and maintenance as opposed to a nice
That's right.
overlay. We're doing lots of repair to then
And we've
Pave
said for
over
years,
rough stuff.
we're gonna incrementally bring it up. We haven't really done that. And we, mess around with it. And I just don't think you can do that. And you have, let's say you're getting people calling you and say, I'm paying $20,000-$30,000 a year in taxes. We don't get anything in this town for that.
Well, I let them know,
Visible.
the schools say thank you.
Yeah,
I only
yeah,
got a very
sure.
Small piece of that.
Right, but it's just, we can't operate like that.
Let me ask you a question, the
Fund the
600,000 that you requested for paving. You increased your catch basins and pipe from 60 to 100, that goes along with.
That's
the
where I
600,
mentioned that
right?
direct correlation,
Yeah.
so to protect the investment,
Because that we didn't change. When
We-
spoke, didn't change that.
we will make sure any trees that need to come down. Makes it easier for our tree company, they could drop a tree right in the road. If it puts a dent in the road or damages the road, it's getting repaved.
Right.
So any major tree work gets done prior to that. Then we look at all our basins. If the tops are all gonna have to come up to the new height of the pavement anyways. So if the top is in poor condition, which they're $500 to $800 per concrete top. We're replacing all of those. If the basin itself is in poor condition, now we're replacing that. All the older neighborhoods in town have metal pipes. If they're in really good shape, we'll leave them, but most of them are shot, so we're replacing those. The plastic pipe is very expensive.
And if you.
Everything we do, we
Mill Road,
backfill with gravel, so it's like if you give a mouse a cookie.
You have to mill a road.
We haven't milled any roads, there's some neighborhoods like to experiment with, if there's a lot of utilities or a lot of catch basins in good shape. That would be a place to do it. A lot of our roads are real small and tight where. The machines you see milling roads are huge.
Yeah.
But we will eventually run into that if we overlay every road in town. The road is now higher, all the water is going down everyone's driveway. At one point in time, we're gonna have to mill some roads. No
Right.
matter which ones and when.
So basically what you're
And that
saying,
will take away from the tonnage of asphalt I'm purchasing, because that is an additional expense.
So what you're saying is in order to, when we are paving the roads, in order to pave them properly and have them have the longest life possible, you have to do all this other work ahead of time. You don't wanna
Yeah,
put trees down on new roads because then you're fixing the new roads. You want the trees down over the roads first. You wanna fix all the infrastructure around,
Yeah.
under and around the roads before you put the new pavement up, because you don't wanna pull up the new pavement again when it has to go.
and I gotta give credit to Tony, he's been helping me, try to talk to the water companies in Indian Arbor Hills, and lots of emails, lots of phone calls, we're not really getting many answers, but two of us are trying, because we do not wanna do any paving in there if they're gonna do any work, and even if it's 2, 3, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't want them cutting those roads up. NICEAG did a bunch of work in Indian Hills, and I have a dip everywhere they went. I talked to them about it the other day. I said, that's on you guys. You did this. And they said they did it for my predecessor to pave, but the work they did settled. I don't know if they didn't compact good or what, but. You know, I'm not getting complaints about them yet, but they're not gonna get any better. So NICEAG, cable, Verizon, water companies.
We're not in the road business.
Well, we gotta make sure they have no plans to cut anything open. Wild Oaks. They did a lot of work in there. And it's all beat up, but until I get some kind of document that says they have no plans for any major projects in the near future. It's not a good investment to pave those roads until I know they're gonna last. I, in my own neighborhood, Lake Katona. I got no right of way. I have neighbors who ask me, oh, I need a catch basin. I said, maybe when we're paving the roads, and they were paved in my lifetime, they're in good shape. Not cutting a road open just to put one catch basin in. You know, I bought a nice $4,000 saw to cut the road. But the reason we did that is then when we peel it up with the excavator, we're just digging a trench. We're not peeling up layers and layers and it spreading out. You know, we try to do like minimal invasiveness. Cause sometimes we do have to cut a nice road, but we try not to.
Right.
Trying to protect that investment.
Any chances the NICEAG would like pay you to fix?
No, cause they subcontract that out, but I'm building a good relationship with them and they did say nothing in the budget this year, but talk to them come next year and they'll look into it. So at least I started the conversation.
Little nudge here and a little nudge there.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
actually did a little extra work for us over at Wild Oaks, so the curbing,
okay,
like some of the curbing that they broke when they had to cut and run.
leave it better than you found it kind of thing.
But
They
they
didn't.
went a little further than they really had to, in some cases, yeah.
Oh,
We'll keep trying,
Um,
yeah.
where are we at with this one?
This one, vehicle, it's just vehicles, equipment, it was
let's-
150, but the
Yeah, let's
next
talk about
one,
that.
what was
had
that?
Some extensive conversation together with Danny earlier today about this line. So part of what, you know, so this is a line that we haven't used before, right? But it was there, it was hidden. And so John wanted to put it back in once he found out that it existed. He wanted to put it back in and put $150,000 towards it for vehicles and equipment. But vehicles would have included, for example, a pickup truck, right?
Yep,
And typically in budgets, you don't put in vehicles, right? It's all operational stuff. So what we need is to put in place a capital plan for vehicles. And this is where it's asked Danny to look into this a little more. Where we could potentially put a line where we're taking money and we're putting into this capital reserve for vehicles. So, you know, if we know that we're gonna
that's
use a truck.
definitely something I'd like to work towards.
But
Yeah.
this doesn't just include vehicles, it includes other
It
things.
includes other
Yeah.
things, but when we started the conversation, it was, if I wanna buy a truck, I wanna be able to go into my budget, use the budget to buy a truck. And that's, you're not supposed to do
What
it.
other stuff we're talking about aside?
Well,
from
I
the truck?
bought a lot of stuff this year, but new technology comes up, just like we had a road saw. It wasn't cutting the road deep enough, so every time we peeled up the road, we were making a mess, so.
Yeah.
I spent $4,000 on a road saw, it'll pay for itself the first couple jobs with being less destructive.
So So vehicle, like for saws, I think we could use, yeah, I mean.
Equipment, trailers, I think we're pretty content. I got two awesome trailers,
Mhm.
for this year. I got a tilt bucket for the excavator, that way we can do our swales and grade the edges of the road. That's just something I saw other municipalities had. I talked to the guys and our operator and said, do you think this would benefit us? And
Mhm.
as opposed to, digging the side of the road and sitting there with a rake and one guy makes the edge of the road look beautiful. It's just technology, but
Right.
there's new things that come out every day and I'm like, oh, this would be awesome, this would be effective, or we need this, or when I saw the chainsaws were engraved 0305, I said, this is absurd, and I went and spent a couple $1,000s on chainsaws, some of them right in service, some of them are in a box, and if we ever get a Hurricane Sandy again, knock on wood, we don't. I would have been real embarrassed if we had, 20-year-old chainsaws and
Right.
one or two broke. It's just not a road I want to cross, so
And this other line you have here, hardware and maintenance, that's the line that when you're.
that one really
when you
gets
walk-
ransacked, whether it's a rake or a wheelbarrow or chains to tie something down or. We try to like the signs, we get like the hardware for that, but that one's the one that really just gets ransacked.
Which line is that for?
Hardware.
Hardware maintenance, I'm trying to highlight it, it's not, it's this one, you have $10,000. Oh, my mouse is not.
That I only bumped up a little, but again, that's, it really gets
I
ransacked.
see it. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's only a drop in the bucket if you ask me.
So I think they all say, bump up this line. And then the other one, if it's got vehicles in the name, I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
If we
I
could
mean,
name
the other
it,
thing I talked to Nick at Somers, Ward didn't call me back, I talked to Mike in Southeast.
Mhm.
There's a 5130 that he uses for vehicles and equipment. I'm navigating this,
Yeah. Does he
today.
actually
So
buy
it's
vehicles?
when you say 5130, it's a budget line.
that's a D 5130 and
Okay.
then the after appropriation, I couldn't quote.
Yeah, just so.
But like I have like a 5130 that's vehicle repairs. They break it down if they send something out, like Dave said, he sends out the tires. They actually broke it down to a line for that.
Yeah.
Which now that I mentioned it, I wanted to say, I would love to buy a tire machine. We don't do a ton of tires, but I'd love to help out and. I had proposed a while ago if maybe maintenance and parks paid for a third of it. PD paid for a third of it, I paid for a third of it. I'd love to have a tire machine,
How
you know,
much?
like 15 grand between a tire machine and balancer, but.
Did that when you
Just the other
include
day, I sent a
machine
guy
and
to
the
Ossining to get tires. I had a guy, drive all the way to Ossining to get tires because that's where the state contract tires are. So my old job, they delivered the tires, we had a tire machine, we did them in-house. If we're going through enough tires, we just gotta run the numbers. Does it make the most sense? The other alternative is we get the tires on state contract that I assume that's what you're doing already. And then you just have someone local amount and balance them. Certain people are okay with it, certain people kind of look at it as a slap in the face, as they only make the money on the labor, they don't mark up the tires, but.
Right.
That
And
is what
that's
it
the
is.
slide, right, the vehicle and equipment.
Yeah, so like you could break down a 5130 and have other appropriations under it.
So just for the people at home, 5130 is a falls under the guise of mechanical.
Yeah,
Machinery, mechanics, that's what 5130 is.
And
that could be
it's also
anything.
a contractual expense.
kind of. That could be anything, like we need a new welder. It's gonna come out of that line.
Not a person,
A brake-
but a machine.
Yeah, a physical piece of equipment, but. If I need brake pads for a truck, it's coming out of that line, so I prefer it stay vague and not be broken into a million little categories. But that's just a perfect example, well, Tony and I were looking at the budget the other day. He said, oh, you still have a fair amount left in that, and I laughed, I said, Corsi Tire was just here, I'm gonna get a bill for 20 grand next week. We sent out a bunch of rims to get, new tires, so just like that was 20 grand.
So if you can get a return on that, that's, even 10 years, you
Oh,
get your money
definitely
back.
10 years.
You know, our funds cost maximum 3-4% or something like that, you know.
And I look at it as productivity, that you guys just hired a new mechanic, for maintenance parks and PD. Whether it goes over at Ontrue or it was here, you know, we could just do the tires in-house. I
It's
mean, I
it's
think. that
actually
makes
good
sense.
for the taxpayer to make these investments because, you know.
Well, it's productivity too. Like I said, I had to send the guy all the way to Ossining, get the tires done, come back.
And that's
That's
an
not
MEO that you're sending over.
Yeah,
So you're taking them away from. you won't-
yeah, he could be in an excavator, he could be driving a truck, but the truck needed tires, you know?
Anywhere we're beating the cost of capital, the cost of our money, we should be making those investments because it's a net savings for the taxpayer. You know, you can't just look at the initial one-off cost.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you the exact number, but a piece of equipment like that would pay for itself over time.
Especially if it's not just being used.
Yeah, every
for
department in town
Yeah,
can use
all
it, you know?
vehicles, all town vehicles, yeah.
And from what I heard, we have 2 good mechanics in town.
Yeah,
So it would benefit not only Parks and Rec, maintenance.
police, highway,
department,
yeah.
On highway.
Highway as well as the
Building department.
building department.
Yeah, they recently had their tires.
Now, that would want to go in our new capital fund that we're gonna set up, you know, that would make it easier, we're gonna have to deal with it right here.
We're going to do that capital fund for fiscal year 25 or?
Well, the tire machine? That could be in.
Like I had said,
I
I proposed everyone chip in towards it, however you guys wanna do it.
And
We were all
seeding-
sharing it, so.
seeding that fund, I wouldn't, you know, feel that it was a bad thing to pull some from surplus for that in a sense, you know, and then, yes, we'll have to start rolling it over, but since it's spanking new and, you know, that would kind of make sense.
Okay.
It was something I brought up with Joel when I first started, and he's, you know, he said it was a good idea. He didn't have the money for it this year, and I said, well, we gotta talk to everyone, because I proposed everyone chip in towards it.
Right.
You know, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna use it. You know, chipping in.
I'm easy $4,000 a year. And that's not including the rubber.
Yeah, so right there,
There you go, right there.
it sounds like it would pay for itself in the first year or two.
First year.
Yeah, between all the
Think of all
departments.
the departments that would use this.
So getting back to the additional personnel, so you wanted 1 MEO and 2 laborers, and then when we talked about it, we said, all right, maybe start with, because your concern is you're tying up MEOs to do flag duty, for example.
Flagging, weed whacking, washing trucks.
We start with 2 laborers, right? This way you're
I
not
mean,
tying up
like I
your
said,
existing MEOs.
We had 15, I want
Yeah.
more staff, I feel like I'm in the beggars can't be choosers category. Obviously, I would love an MEO and to guys, cause every day I face the battle. Of, do I do one small job, one medium job, one large job with everyone, one large job and one guy goes mowing? You know, I get it, we're not as big as Yorktown, Carmel, those towns. But those towns, every day a tree crew is out. There's a bucket truck, a chipper, every single day. When I do tree work, I almost have every guy doing that, so I might be able to have 2 guys do potholes. I might have 1 or 2 guys mowing or street sweeping. But for the most part, if I'm doing tree work, it's everyone, so nothing else gets done for the day. I hate having to put things on a list and kick the can down and next month, next week, you know, I get complaints every day, you get complaints every day. You know, I hate pushing off work, and it's always inevitable that the list will never catch up.
Right.
But I feel like often the larger projects are pushed down month after month, and the little ones trickle in. And more staff, I would be able to get a lot more done. I could send 2 medium crews out every day. You know, if I was working on this road, there's no way around it. 2 guys are flagging all day long. If I'm on a dead end, I can have 1 guy flagging as long as we got a tight work zone. But you know, half these guys are my friends before I took this job. And even if they weren't, I don't wanna knock on anyone's door at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Someone got hurt, someone didn't make it home.
Right.
That's my biggest fear. So productivity is high, but safety is above it. So I feel I could get more work done with a safe work environment with more staff.
Mhm.
And that's a little work for Carrie too, because you have to add to the
Yeah, we
roster of
talked,
civil
I guess we
service.
have room for one at the moment and Joel wants one, so we
Yeah,
do have to add one.
we talked about that today, so yeah, it's, they're running more efficient.
The people of the county like Carrie though, because she gets things done. I hear surrounding towns complain, things take months, years, her and I got that
No
slash.
pressure,
position
Carrie,
going.
whatsoever.
I don't know, yeah,
We don't want to curse it.
yeah.
Touch on from like that.
So,
Just one thing I wanted to add, I'll be grateful with the two, but I was looking at old town board things, and a while ago, when my predecessor was trying to get the MEO/mechanic position made, there was a resolution that said, I should have brought it with me, but it said upon civil service, they will create the position MEO/mechanic. Carrie and I worked and got that done. There was nothing, maybe it was just understood, or maybe it wasn't written. That wasn't to replace an MEO. To me, I read it as that was a new position. So I didn't see change one MEO to an MEO/mechanic, which is what I've done at the moment. So come January, I have one guy, he's gonna make $1 an hour more. He helps out in the shop, which helps our mechanic. But I wanted to then replace that vacant MEO, because I do have that on the job roster. That is already there. So that's why I asked for not necessarily a new MEO, but I moved someone to the MEO/mechanic. I wanted to leave that line with the MEOs the same, which would give me a time to hire someone in January. And if civil service takes a while, we can also think about, if I'm not hiring anyone till February, that's savings right there, a month or two. If I gotta wait on that, that's a fair amount saved, which I wasn't trying to, but I had someone retire in April. I didn't hire anyone until July, it just worked that way. That saved us a little bit, but I wasn't strategic doing that. I know other towns do that. They'll delay stuff like that.
Yeah,
It just happened to work that way. I wasn't trying to be strategic, but in the end, that did save us some money.
we can't do anything about how fast or slow the service.
Oh,
the county
I was
is.
shocked when Carrie sent me an email and said, they created the position. I thought it was gonna take years, because my predecessor was trying to do it for years.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
thanks, John, thanks, Gary.
Hey, and I think it's kind of cool when you go on the county job descriptions. It says MEO/mechanic. Usually it says like cities, villages, rye. That one says town of Lewisboro. I think that's kind of cool.
It's not kind of cool, it is cool.
Even need some royalties when other municipalities use it.
Yeah, maybe.
There we go, there we go.
Okay, so,
We can provide consulting fees.
So yeah, those are kind of my big ticket items. Like I said, you know, I like a couple things like fuel, rounded up a hair, just who knows what the economy will be next year. The one thing I will say is outside contractors goes to multiple things. Right now, we have, it's either 5 or 6 local guys with pickup trucks who come help us plow. If I get more staff, I'm not gonna right away, because respectively, those guys are dedicated to us for this season.
Yeah.
But come next year, that's something I could look into, taking money from that, putting it towards manpower. Cause I like doing things in-house, I'll admit, there are plenty of things we can sub out and it saves money. But just from a communication and getting things done, the snow, I like doing it more in-house. And if I have guys, I gotta keep them busy, so, you know, I might have to have a few less subs when it comes to snow. But that could also be, I contemplated the Brunnage job, pipe job. It was $30,000 for someone to do that job if we provided the material.
Right.
We did it ourselves. It took us a week. North Salem loaned us their larger excavator. My guys worked hard and got it done, but that would come out of that. So I don't know if I wanna start pulling at that because all of Arbor Hills has rusty metal pipes and
Yeah.
the one thing I'm gonna look into is cameraing all of them and getting a quote on the condition of them. That would be an outside contractor. That's where that would come from.
Right, yep.
So not right away, but in the future, that would be, we can maybe shift things around. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Right.
For 2026.
Yeah, because like I said, it's gonna, I'd have to, phase things into a new program.
And then the salt line potentially,
That's just a gamble. I
Yeah.
mean, that's where I took money for the smaller trailer and some other things, that excavator bucket.
Mhm.
But it's November. I might have to start salting, it's below 30 in the morning now for whatever reason. It hasn't rained in months. But if we had running groundwater, we've tackled quite a few icy spots in town, but there are always gonna be some new ones pop up every week during the winter. It's something you gotta be careful with, cause
Yeah.
while it's this year's budget, I might need salt before the year is over. Something you don't really think about when it's still warm out, but same with the outside contractors.
Right.
If I got a plow, money's gonna come out of that before the year's over.
I think this week has shown us you can't really count on the,
Yeah, from
Weather
30 to
staying
80
the
degrees
same.
in the same day.
yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. Any other questions for John?
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
That's it.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Right, so
Yes.
Joel is here as well, if you guys want to talk about maintenance. I mean, it's not much, but just keep that in mind.
The road resurfacing and paving for local roads, it's an essential service. Only the town can perform it. And only town taxes can fund it, so I think we should. Put that line in as it's been requested, it's 600.
Do that. So put in, if I do
240.
it's back to 600, scap 16.77.
I mean, we have a lot of competing things, particularly this year, but I'm using the term as essential. This is an essential service. And other things in town are not essential. This is, like I said, this is our roads which have been, long neglected here, so you can't get further behind. You have to have this as a stable expenditure going forward.
There comes a point when you have to stop kicking the can down the road, if you'll pardon the
Right, I mean,
expression.
we're gonna get deeper into stuff as we proceed through the process, but this is essential. Other things are not essential. And as John said, 100% of the people in this town benefit from roads that are in proper shape. It's a safety issue, and every single person who lives in this town benefits from quality roads. And that's unlike any other, aside from LPD, those are the two things that are, above and any other department.
And the people who work here in town as well. Be interesting to see what the surplus is, whether we can.
Well, yeah, and that'll, once we
that.
find out
Right,
proper way to use that, yeah, that could help.
yeah, and if you have it
Because-
earmarked for this, that's,
If we've been neglecting our roads for so many years, it's time to start doing the right thing. And making sure that the roads get paved at the proper schedule. And that our departments have the tools that they need to get the job done.
Right.
I mean, the other lines I've, bit of flexibility, not to work on the numbers, but that to me should be a hard number as far as expenditure.
Joel, how much more money do you want to spend this year?
Well, I'm okay with having Joel come up.
Yeah, why don't you come up, Joel?
Joel, you mind
Surprise, come give us a surprise presentation.
That's right.
I don't have the latest numbers I want to use, just like 3 changes.
What are the numbers?
Where are we at on the form?
They're lower.
We're gonna wait for Tyler. Right now.
Does this include technical services?
Yes.
I'm trying to get to that section, but it's not.
1680.
Technical services, videotaping, computer equipment.
Yeah, we're good. Licensing goes up, we're getting
So
outside testing next year for our network vulnerability.
are we under shared service?
Oh, yep.
Shared services, right?
Okay,
It's up on the screen.
thank you.
So, yeah, your maintenance workers. Right, that's-
Maintenance worker, right, so, the new mechanic we have, they added steps for it, which dropped our budget down. But I'd like to add a laborer for next year,
And that's what I have in my note there. It's 34K for the new labor.
right?
Was that part year, partial year, or was that?
No, it's a full time, yeah, that's all they can do, it's either seasonal or full time.
Right,
There's no part time,
yeah,
but that also reduces, 30,000 in other areas.
the other, right,
If we didn't get the labor, then you'd put the 30,000 back to
right.
cover what he's
Okay.
doing, so.
You definitely need a laborer.
Yeah, we need labor, because we're
Yeah.
pretty much treading water now, for one time.
Everything else, I mean, yeah, I'll let it go down, but
Yeah,
Oil
there's,
burner.
heating oil, HVAC, I think that went down, right?
let's see.
I think that was. Went up to 13, but I think we brought it back down to 8.
Oh, yeah, we went, yeah, that's right, we took 5,000 back out.
Yeah. Cellular, that's, that's not just phones. That's probably half phones now.
That's, so that's this line, the 1620-0404.
0406, it's 0406.
Cell
Oh,
phone
cell phone
service.
service, okay.
Yeah, it's really not cell phone service anymore, because it's police car modems, it's plate readers, it's backup internet for the buildings, it's a lot more than just cell phones now.
Right,
So that should really be called like cellular services
Right.
or something like that.
and your other major change here was the cleaning services,
Cleaning.
which you had bumped up, and then you
Right.
reduced it again,
To what did we reduce it back down to?
51,000.
Yeah, because we're paying like you went out to bid on this right around 2020s, now it's
Mhm.
2025. And the prices are 3-4 times higher than they
Right.
were 5 years ago.
That's putting it delicately.
And everything is now prevailing wage for Westchester, which has got up a lot.
Right,
And supplies are more expensive too, because of inflation.
Everything,
Yeah.
everything to do with that. That's the big change is that, Keeler water system. That needs a remote. SCADA, so we can tell the pressures and things without having to go to the building.
Right.
Water system maintenance, we're replacing the UV at the town park, which can still be used when they replace the whole system.
right,
But we need something right away,
right, to be compliant.
right? So we talked to the engineers, it's gonna be the same unit that we would get when we upgrade the system. In addition to it, so.
Okay.
Everything else is small, 400.
Yeah, let me,
Elevator services, we're gonna try and find somebody else to do it.
a second, let me just go there.
Elevator services?
Where's?
Auction.
Oh,
Yeah, we have that.
the 4,200 will be outsourced, outsourcing it?
That's just for inspections.
Oh, my gosh.
So where's the elevator service? What's?
It's
1620,
413.
413. That's just to get a service contract. The
Wow.
elevator company won't come out for unless you have a service contract. So this is just to pay for our monthly inspections.
So it's like,
Doesn't include any repairs,
it's like the oil company.
So
but it's never broken.
the monthly inspection, that's a set from regulatory, just
Yeah, because it's a real elevator, so you have to have the certificate and all that stuff. And
We would rather have that than not.
they,
no, it's a regular, it's, you know, it's a regular.
they come
it's not
up
part of-
from, I think the Bronx, there's a company down there. But they're one of the
Johnson
only teams
Controls.
around that do this,
Okay.
apparently.
Alright.
Cleaning service, yeah, we,
Any service, you're right.
we took that back down to 51,000.
It's pretty straightforward.
So what section are you, it's next on your list there?
Those, 1680 is mine too.
So the cleaning service reduction was,
1680 print and mail.
To 51,000.
No.
that was that, so the
Service
one that
services,
we
yeah.
have in our package, that doesn't have that yet.
Oh, no, it's,
Okay,
yeah.
that was
correct,
a
that's
new,
correct.
that was a new one.
That was an adjustment in
Okay.
preliminary.
That's
Right.
fine. Sorry.
That's good. Technical services, yeah.
Right.
Licenses.
The license fee, that's, talk about that, that's the software licenses,
We're
right?
getting all different backup software for our servers next year.
Right.
We got away with living on perpetual licenses, but the software is so old now, you can't even upgrade it. So now everything is annual.
Right.
They've gotten away from buying it and keeping it for 10 years.
Anyone with a laptop knows that.
Email servicing, the same thing. Back, email, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We're getting an outside audit next year they try and break into our stuff, our systems.
Right.
And it's like third party tries to break in and do things to us.
Yes.
That's
We're getting hacked.
6,000
It's
for
white,
that.
white hat services, so to speak.
Which line are you looking at?
1680,043. Is that, yeah, that's in, is that in the?
No, I
Does that come
don't
out?
think we have that.
I don't see it. Oh, you said
Or
043?
we have an 046.
It was a line we hadn't used in a while, maybe it didn't come through.
Oh, wait a
Didn't
minute,
come
didn't we
through.
move that into the license fee? That I spoke about it.
Yeah, license fee is 34,245 without that. This is the,
Oh, you know,
So
the
that's where you're,
broadband access fee, is that the $7,000 bump up?
no, that's for actual broadband, because that's, phone doesn't go up, but broadband does. No, this is 6,000 on its own for that. Outside testing.
All right, so that's not coming up on here, so let me just make it up.
That could be a line I picked that hadn't been used in years,
Okay,
and it's not coming up in KBS maybe.
White hat audit.
well,
It's on my spreadsheet, but my spreadsheet's been around.
And you said $6,000?
Yeah, that's what our consultant said to allow. 6,000 for penetration testing.
I think that's money well spent. Because we don't want to leave ourselves open and vulnerable.
No, and the
To
insurance companies like
something.
that too.
Yeah.
So
so there's testing and there's testing, like there's vulnerability testing, and then there's penetration testing, and there's like.
so
you
yeah, it's
kind
the
of
whole,
pick
yeah,
Levels, do you know which level they're pushing?
it's the first two.
Both, so.
Yeah,
both
it's both,
penetration
yeah,
tests.
yeah.
Okay, that's why it's a little higher than, yeah.
Because we just have the one firewall, so it's not a huge deal for them. But they also look at our procedures and stuff like that.
Oh,
Audit
Okay.
that.
oh, well, if they're including all that for 6,000, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, I guess
Because,
they're small.
I mean, we do it Sustainable Westchester, and like the procedure thing was done whole separate, that was a whole separate thing.
Depends on what procedures we're talking about. We might
Yeah.
just be step 1 through 3, and you're talking like through 6 or
A
7.
full.
I think we have the
Yes.
basic suite
Okay,
testing.
no, then that's.
So everything else, the 460, 492. So 92 is going to be lowered by 7,000 for then access fee.
Broadband access fee raises,
Actually, I'm sorry, you increased it 7,000.
right, it's,
Oh, I thought it stayed at 20.
total of 7, not
Okay.
7 more than I had asked before. I asked for 3 before.
We asked for 24, right?
It was
Up to
24.
31, okay, I see.
Wait, what am I? Spreadsheet's not doing the math. My spreadsheet didn't add it, but it was 24,000 in 2023 and 2024.
Right.
So could that be the additional 7,000 for that? Does that cover the audit?
That didn't,
That's completely separate.
yeah, I think that was completely separate.
Okay.
Yeah, the broadband is going up. We were living under original optimum agreements when we first got cable. We were at $49 a month. They couldn't raise it because it was a contract, but the speeds were crazy slow. To upgrade our speeds, our prices going up 5-fold. Because we were paying like $35 a month for our internet,
Wow.
but it was really slow.
Yeah.
So to bring it up to,
The
even half
21st
again
century.
is a lot.
Yeah.
So in your requested budget, you had 1680.0400 as the security testing. It used to be software GIS. That's where you had
Yeah.
6,000, but then
So I think that's what that line used to be for services, just plain services. I think it was 043. 1680.043.
oh, wait a minute. I have a note here that it's linked to the email servicing, which is 9,200.
I don't have it on my spreadsheet, but that would make sense because email servicing is usually only,
The 6,000.
Correct.
right,
where
that's
the 6,000.
3,200, right?
So rather than put in this new line,
Okay, it's there.
6,000
Okay,
instead.
yeah, that's fine.
Right there it is.
Okay. That's right.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, so one more tree work in the cemeteries, I think. So about it. Yeah. Not looking at here, but it's 8810.
Yeah, that's a cemetery.
8810.
8800s are cemeteries.
So that you're pretty much the mowing you increased to
It
19,500.
must have been the mowing, yeah, because
Yeah.
we include the spring and fall cleanups. And we
Mhm.
try and clean up a couple of the walls
Right.
each year, like South Salem and Bexell.
Yeah.
We have some mowing.
16,000 for mowing, 3,500 cleanup. In your notes here.
So I think street lighting stays the same.
Yeah, that's the one those lighting, right?
A couple of those.
That's it.
That's it, right? Small list of capital type things someday for discussion, but
Yeah,
not, that's,
Sooner than later.
yeah, if we have it this year, discussion, that's good.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll do that. Okay.
Thank you, Joel.
Joe. Anything else you guys wanna bring up? Because we're pretty much, we're done in terms of the presentation, so I would just go back and review. We heard here tonight, and made some changes. I can distribute what I have. One thing I do have to do still is in terms of the debt service for the bond. I need to update. I don't think it's gonna be too much different, but this number here. So for example, the band interest for highway. We eliminated prior bands that we had when we took out the bond. Early this year.
Yeah, because we say we picked, because we retired something, we had
Well,
some
right.
savings, right, like about 300.
Correct, we took all the bands, wrapped them up into a single bond.
Yeah.
And so the only band that we have is that $320,000 for paving. And that's the interest and principal that you see here. Under the requested for 2025. So that brought that number down, right? Because we were at 49,000 in interest, now it's 13,800. Principal was 93, and actually we don't, one second, it's 50, yeah, 50,000. So I have to,
Is that a placeholder?
no, that's
That's the
Fine.
actual number.
this one here I have to review.
Okay,
Because I have the total debt service for that bond, but it's both general fund and highway fund.
mhm. Oh, and you
Here,
want to
here we break it out, we split it out, right? So I have to figure out what that split is, right? So right now we have 208,000 for the highway fund. For the general fund. Let's keep this one, so. The general fund, it's yeah, it's right here. So you see, like in the general fund, we got rid of the band interest and principal, it's down to 0. That was an initial estimate that I came up with, but I have to review that for the bond principal and interest.
On property and casualty insurance line, A 1910. So it's 214,000. Have we shopped that recently or
We shopped it last year,
any,
but
yeah, or specifically anything as far as changing deductibles? In other words, if we, like in car insurance, whatever, if we pay a certain amount.
I know we looked at that last year, but I forget what the outcome was.
Yeah, because it's a 214 number. And a question on the
So that one, we actually, hold on a second, let me just find it. Casualty. We kept that number the same because we had estimated a 10% increase last year, and it actually came in at 5%.
right.
So we're leaving it alone with the assumption that it's going to come in maybe at another 5%, because we had hopefully it'll be a consistent increase. But that's something that we actually have, did we?
It was
I think we-
this early in May.
Yeah,
Our renewal's
we
in May.
checked, yeah,
For the liability insurance?
yeah,
Well, somebody should make sure, because you gotta push brokers on that and to really shop it around, because,
right.
you get different quotes and
Mhm.
see what's, especially property and casualties should be a broader market than other types of insurance, which is limited players. So it's definitely, especially if we've had a good.
I know the
risk
last time we
history.
shopped it, there was, I forget what the other company was, but they couldn't compete with,
Yeah.
this is through, it's
Slimer.
Slimer, yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Brown and Brown, but that's the.
They're the broker, but not
Yeah.
well, even though,
We can
even
ask
for,
Brown and Brown too.
yeah, and the question about, this fund balance restoration line,
Mm-hmm.
which is,
Yeah, that's the one that we use for unexpected increases, surprises, so like if.
Well, now your
Okay.
contingency.
For contingency, yeah.
Basically a rainy day fund in case we have,
Right, that's where, for example, we had this for when we weren't sure where the unions were headed, right, in terms of
So that's, so the,
Associations
all right, so
and health insurance.
so it's not a balance restoration, essentially, it's like it's a mislabeling a little bit of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's surplus. In a
It's not
sense.
putting some, I mean, the way the language is, it's almost like it's
Mhm.
putting stuff, money back into it.
Fund spoken to.
Okay.
But it's a way not to flag the things that you're still negotiating though.
Well. You read the budgets, I guess, pick it up with the.
Yeah, so for highway, we call it a contingent account. That's 30,000. And it's the same code. I don't know why it's called fund balance restoration and the other one's contingent. This is.
Well,
But that
legacy,
amount
but-
is based, that you have in there is based on some. Things that are still out there
Mhm.
and you're not quite sure about.
Right. and
But
then
by
we-
the time we finish this process, will we probably know most of those that this. Can either get transferred to those or disappear.
So it's not, but that's not, and yeah, so that's not carried through. just
So the answer is
consistently.
yes,
That's-
when we find out, he said when we find out,
The items, whichever items that
so after
you're,
we adopt the budget. After we adopt the budget, we find out that our insurance went up.
You mean like the health
no,
insurance?
no,
that
it's
you
it's
find out-
post.
Health
that
insurance.
we
All
find
right,
out the end of the year and.
okay,
Yeah. So then we know, okay, we have some
Okay.
contingency built into the budget, and we can use that to cover that additional expense that we weren't accounting for.
because there's a decent likelihood insurance will go up,
Right,
and so to not have anything in there.
right,
Now, the other approach is to put that in your, if you know, it's the insurance line, you put it in the insurance line.
correct.
No, that,
And then
That
maybe
we've not.
reduce this number a bit.
yeah, one way or the other, as
Yeah.
long as you know what it's for.
Yep.
Then it
Right.
does just disappear.
Mhm.
So when do you want our comments on? Our thoughts on where money should be spent or not spent or moved?
Well, we have until, we're gonna set a public hearing on the preliminary budget,
Didn't we already set that?
for December 9th. We set
We
that at
didn't
the
set it yet.
next meeting. I believe it's at the next meeting, the November 12th meeting. I think so, yeah. So we have a couple, 3 weeks. The budget has to be adopted by 12/20. So in reality, even after the public hearing, we still have time to make any adjustments.
So I guess we gotta know what tools are on our economic toolbox
Yes,
as far as this
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
Because then that, so I also
That will
figure
have
out,
an impact.
yeah, and where we're targeting.
Right.
So, I mean, as far as, so it's probably 16 now, I think.
You went up to 16 in it.
16.77.
Yeah,
So will you send us an updated sheet then that includes like the new things that,
I could send you this if
that
you
would be
want.
great.
yeah,
Right.
and whatever.
Yeah,
So
I can do that, yeah.
There is an expense in here that we forgot, we had a request from legal. To upgrade their annual.
Oh, yeah, that's right. In fact,
685.
it's not in here, you're right.
6,800, right?
I was gonna verify that with, I forget what he said. It was,
85,
It was
right?
85,
Yeah, it's up.
1,000.
all right, so let's put that in here right now. So,
Right, so it's
Yeah,
65.
yeah.
it's, attorney for the town, so up to 8,500, say?
No, you have to add an additional $10,000.
Oh, 10,000, to bring it up to 85, right, yeah.
Because it's been over
Yeah, I was gonna,
a number of
yeah,
years
talk about that.
since that has been
Long time.
addressed.
16.89.
Yeah, one of the, actually, it hasn't come up in discussion. Have, you had a conversation as far as getting a list of any, delinquencies as far as properties? There,
Whatever we have is with our Jen Harrows.
no, I'm talking about, in other words, even as far as collections. Do we have any tax delinquencies that are out there? As far as in the town, we should get a list from the tax receiver, if anybody's delinquent as far as taxes in the town.
Right, but are you saying put that into the budget?
No.
I'm saying it's a potential
list.
revenue opportunity we should see. So,
Yeah.
so if somebody's.
So
if
she
some-
has, yeah, there's a revenue line.
Well, I'm finishing my thought. If somebody's tax delinquent and it hasn't been put out in foreclosure, that means there's money that's owed before it's been sent out for foreclosure. So we
Yeah.
should make sure that there's not money that has not been collected for whatever reason, which potentially could be, $200,000.
So we have receiver of taxes in my cover letter. We actually reduced that amount by $70,000. If that's what you're referring to, it's the interest and penalties line.
No, I'm just talking about we should get a current list. As to
Like
what's.
her lien, like the lien list?
Yeah.
Like who's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's on her monthly report. She's
Okay.
got the liens listed by year.
Okay.
And I know she just filed 2024 liens, so. There's
So
some
you
there.
can't put that in as a revenue line.
No,
Is that what you're
no.
looking at?
He's not trying to.
You just want the list. You just want to see the list. So it's not to do with the budget.
No, just that it could potentially help our finances in the town if we could
Oh,
collect
yeah,
on those.
that
And I think that's
Deidre
the
is
point.
driving that.
What's that?
Deidre is driving that.
Well, we don't get a regular report. I'm hearing about a report that the rest of us don't get on a regular basis.
It goes to the controller, yeah.
Well, we don't.
You can always call her, but we can ask
Well,
her. to
I don't know what's,
send-
yeah, so, or we can get a periodic report like we get, building department, police department.
She's never done that, but we can ask her.
At least
Yeah.
quarterly, we should have an idea.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever
That's fine.
it's generated, it's just
Good idea.
distributing on one piece of paper, right?
Already, yeah.
Yes.
That can be done. And you can always, also reach out to her directly and say, please provide that report.
So just in summary, we're gonna look to see. Right now, you've estimated, or we've estimated the inclusion of approximately a 4% raise for all non-union employees.
Right, but I want to make,
But you're going to check the numbers in the contract, the
Mhm.
comparable union contracts to see if that's gonna be not 4%. Correct, and then we'll make suggestions as to where else we think money should or should not go.
Mhm.
Okay,
Do we have like a global or as far as cross town proposed new hires, new employees, what we have?
propose new hires.
Right,
That's in the budget.
right, it's all, I wonder if that's laid out, if there's a way to lay that out easier, like all the.
No, we
Gotta
don't.
go-
how many people we would need to hire in highway, how many people we need to hire?
Yeah,
in
but like,
maintenance,
here's the proposed new hires for the town.
No, we don't have that. We don't have a summary, no.
Okay.
Anything else? Good. Okay.
Yeah, so that's important, we need to know, because then we need to know what we're targeting.
Right, and then we need to know, what the impact of that is going forward, both future budgets.
Yeah, I mean, what did we come in last year? We were at 5,
4 points something.
4.9 or 5 or something?
No, we're at 5, we're 4. The tax cap was 2 point,
I know that, it's just we came in at like
came in at 4 and change.
5 okay. So-
Yeah, I can look that up here. We have it. Not the budget. This is- So last year,
I'm thinking 4.7 now.
4.2.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should also have a discussion among ourselves, maybe where we're looking to land and stuff. I suppose, so we frame it when we go back.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming out to the workstation. Thank you, Chief. Thanks to John and everybody else. It's Gary. Thanks, Joe. For allowing us to add you in. You're off the hook next week.
No executive,
Yeah, we do have, yes,
Yeah.
I guess a motion to adjourn to executive session,
We want to announce the
personnel.
next board meeting.
personnel and real estate. Yes.
The next board meeting is
The
November
next, oh
12th.
yeah, sure, that's that, sorry. Next board meeting is next Monday.
No, it's not, that's Veterans Day.
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday, next Tuesday. at 7:30 PM here at the Townhouse, 11 Main Street, South Salem.
We just, since we're not doing, just maybe make an announcement as to the veterans, so.
Go ahead.
No, was it 11 o'clock and?
11 o'clock Monday. Correct.
Fine, so we're. okay.
Yeah, so Veterans Day ceremony here in front of the Townhouse at 11 AM. Monday, the Lions Club will be grilling hamburgers, hot dogs. And the other, the Lily's is also contributing some food. Yeah, and, oh, that's right, Wally Golden is turning 100 years old, so,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So what time is the service?
it's at 11.
11 at 11.
11. Yeah.
There will be a moment of silence.
Who made a second for the motion?
Who seconded my motion?
Executive session.
Yeah,
I'll second.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone, for coming out, also over Zoom.